Hi there, TESMEN sent me the latest product, a voltage tester TN-213 for review. I did not pay for this tester, so I marked this review as promotion, but for my previous reviews, you always get my unbiased opinion about a product. Apart from the tester and batteries, you get a manual of sorts in form of a sheet with basic information in many languages. It's a chunky device that bears a striking resemblance to one of my other testers, as you will see. Anyway, let's turn it on. A nice clear display showing the sensitivity level on the top and a percentage number of the field detected at the bottom. Field strength will also be displayed as a bar graph in the middle. Two buttons, the power button and a button that turns the torch on or off with long presses or switches the sensitivity when used with short presses. Turning the torch light on and it's fairly bright and produces a good beam. It's actually quite useful as a torch. With the tester in the less sensitive mode, it seems barely able to pick up the 235 volts mains on the live terminal of the IEC plug. Switching to high sensitivity changes that. Now the tester is alerting by just being in the proximity of the plug. During alerts it beeps and the display backlight turns red. Confusingly, probing either the earth or live side of the plug causes alerts. Probably because the earth terminal is right next to live, so the strong field caused by the live terminal is still picked up when probing earth. But there is a clear difference in the displayed signal level bar graph between the two. Okay, that's basically it, but to make the video more interesting, let's introduce some competition. With the new TESMEN, I now have 3 testers to play with. The top is a Fluke, which is comparatively slim and light against the others. Below the Fluke a TASI and at the bottom the TESMEN. The latter two are remarkably similar in size, looks and weight, but the TASI uses just a few LEDs as display, not an LCD screen. I put the key specs of the 3 into this table. All use 2 AAA batteries, all have a 5-minute auto power off and all have visual and audible alerts, but there are differences. The Fluke has only one sensitivity, which is relatively low compared to the others, and does all its signaling with a single red LED, which flashes to show that the tester is on and the battery is okay. The beep of the Fluke is very loud, but the nice thing is that it can be turned off if you use it late at night. Of my testers, only the Fluke allows that. There is no torchlight in the Fluke. The other two have torchlights and both have sensitivities that you can choose. The TASI has just 2 green LEDs and 1 red one for alerting, far less than what the outside seems to suggest. It makes up for the visual shortcomings with a really loud beep. The TESMEN has a proper LCD display, as you saw, indicating a signal level in both percentage numbers and a bar graph. As opposed to that, its beep is very soft in comparison to the others. While I generally prefer soft or no beeps in a noisy outdoor environment like a construction site, the TESMEN may be hard to hear at all. I found the torch lights between the TASI and the TESMEN very different. The TESMEN is really quite exceptional in its brightness. The TASI is hardly visible in the same light settings, but then it occurred to me that the TESMEN is running off fresh batteries while the TASI is not. I put the batteries out of the TESMEN into the TASI, and with that the light's much better, but still way less in comparison, so the TESMEN wins hands down, although one wonders what this does in terms of battery life. So let's have a closer look at its current consumption. The left meter shows the current while the right one the voltage. In normal operation without alerts, the tester uses about 5.7 milliamps. Turning the torch on pushes that to 18.5 milliamps. The current during alerts with all the beeping jumps around a lot, so the left meter is set to just record the maximum. 39.3 milliamps, which is a lot, but remember it's pulses and not continuous. Now that we know the maximum, what about the other end, when the tester turns itself off after 5 minutes of inactivity? That's pretty good. The left meter shows 0 milliamps, so it's less than 1 microamp. No worries here about draining the batteries when in off mode. The last value I want to find out is at what voltage the low battery warning comes on. There it is, at 2.63 volts. Let's compare the TESMEN data with the other testers. First thing to note is that the power off consumption of all testers is basically zero. I would still recommend to take batteries out of testers when not in use for a long time, but that's purely because to avoid damage by leaking batteries. Unsurprisingly, the Fluke with its minimalistic approach uses the least current when nothing is happening, and its battery OK flashes fade to be invisible at 1.6 volts or 0.8 volts per cell. That means it really uses batteries until they are totally exhausted, giving it an excellent battery life. The TASI uses less current than the TESMEN and it can tolerate a lower battery voltage, but 2.43 volts or 1.22 per cell is not great. Moreover, if that voltage is reached, the TASI simply turns off. There's no warning before that. The TESMEN uses the most battery of the three in all modes. In normal mode, that's not surprising, given it has a much nicer display showing a lot more information and an always-on backlight. What is a surprise is the very high consumption during alerts, given that the beeps are actually very soft. And as expected, the TESMEN torch uses quite a bit more power than the one in the TASI. The low battery warning at 2.63 volts, that's 1.32 volts per cell, is very early. This means if you use rechargeable cells in this tester, they will need recharging often, even if they have been barely used yet. Alkaline cells will also need to be quite empty when the indicator comes on. I guess that high cutoff is determined by the microcontroller in this tester that needs a minimum operating voltage. To compare practical usage, I use an adjustable AC supply for my Variac set to 3.6 volts. The yellow socket with a red lead in it is live, the blue one with a black lead is neutral. Let's see how each tester performs. First up, the TESMEN in high sensitivity mode. It has no problem detecting no difference between live and neutral. The TASI in high sensitivity next, which also detects the voltage, maybe slightly more reluctantly than the TESMEN. Last, the Fluke, which is not indicating anything from either terminal because it needs at least 70 volts. Repeating the test with 126 volts. The TESMEN first. Now it does beep faster and shows more signal on the live terminal. The same is true for the TASI, faster beeps at the live terminal. And the Fluke, nothing at neutral, but it alerts at the live terminal, which is what you would expect. And now 232 volts. It's pretty much the same as before. TESMEN and TASI alert on both neutral and live, with more beeps at live, while the Fluke only beeps at the live terminal, which is the correct behavior. The reason that both TESMEN and the TASI seem to falsely alert at neutral is that they are so sensitive that they pick up a live signal from anywhere in the proximity, which then makes the neutral terminal appear hot. While the stoic Fluke of course does not fall for such things. Switching the TESMEN to the lower sensitivity makes it behave much better, still a tad sensitive but much more usable in this situation. The TASI on the low sensitivity improves as well, but it's really still a bit too sensitive and gives confusing false alerts. It is hard to come up with an overall score. Here's my attempt to objectively rate each feature between the three. If you need to detect low AC voltages, the TESMEN in high sensitivity mode followed by the TASI are much better than the Fluke. On the flip side, the high sensitivity causes a lot of alerts, which can be a real nuisance. In that aspect, the Fluke is far better than the other two, while the TESMEN is just marginally better than the TASI. No doubt that the TESMEN is king with respect to the information displayed. The TASI comes a far second with a very simple indicator using a few LEDs, while the Fluke just shows a solid light, and that is it. I rate the alert volume based on louder is better, which is what I suspect most people want. Thank goodness that the Fluke audible alerts can be turned off. We already discussed the torch as well as the battery life. A word on battery replacement. On both the TASI and TESMEN, replacing batteries is real easy, requiring no tools, just unscrew the rear. The Fluke has a very complicated mechanism and I usually have to revert to a screwdriver pushing a pin while trying to slide it open. Even after that is accomplished, inserting or getting batteries out is a struggle. I find that highly annoying because I don't use testers that often, so I usually keep batteries out for fear of leaks. If you sum all this up, the TESMEN scores highest above the TASI and the Fluke. That is not how I see it personally because, for example, I consider the torchlight useful but not essential and generally prefer low nuisance alerts over too much sensitivity. Further, I just want to know if dangerous voltage is there or not, so I would not even look at any additional information shown. All I can say is that all testers performed well and deserve to be considered. Each shines in some area and not so much in others. Which tester is best for you depends on how important you rate these areas, or, if you keep a few testers, which one is best for the job at hand. Well, that's it for the TESMEN TN-213. I want to thank TESMEN for sending it in. There's a link in the description if you want to buy it. It's not an affiliate link, I don't profit in any way. If you like my videos, don't forget to subscribe. There are many more projects, repairs and reviews coming up, and it would be great if you decided becoming a Patreon. That would really help this channel. Thanks for watching.